Hey guys, tonight we're rolling back the velvet curtain on a time when beauty meant plastering your face with things your doctor now warns you about. That's right, the 1950s, an era so obsessed with looking good that even your toaster had better hair than you. We're talking hairspray, Hurricane's nuclear-grade mascara, waist cinches so tight you could see what someone had for breakfast, and advertisements promising that real happiness could be bought, usually in a bottle labelled Youthful Radiance and probably containing uranium. Before you get too comfortable, take a second to like the video and subscribe, but only if you actually enjoy what I do here. Leave a comment telling me your most regrettable beauty purchase or the wildest thing you've done to your hair. Bonus points if it involved kitchen utensils. Now, dim the lights, put on a fan for that soft, soothing hum, and sink into your bed, preferably with less hairspray than the average 1950s housewife. Let's pause for a second. Have you ever wondered how women in the 1950s managed to look so perfect all the time? How did they get their hair to stand taller than their hopes and dreams? Did anyone actually enjoy wearing a girdle, or was it just an elaborate prank by the corset industry? What did advertisers really mean by radiant skin, and was it contagious? Could you survive a week under the pressure of being feminine enough for the Tupperware party and the PTA? Would you last a day with 6 layers of pancake makeup, nylon stockings in July, and a smile that screamed, "Help, I haven't blinked since breakfast"? Congratulations, you've just woken up in 1953. Eisenhower is president, your living room furniture is made of asbestos, and your next-door neighbour judges you for owning the off-brand lipstick. Good luck. You pry your eyes open, greeted by the soft aroma of aquanet and disappointment. The sun is barely up, but the mirror's already judging you. In the 1950s, a woman's day didn't start until she'd checked for stray curlers, rogue eyebrows, and any visible signs of sleep, nature's first mistake. You lie there, trying to summon the courage to leave the warm embrace of your synthetic polyester sheets, which, incidentally, cling to your legs with the tenacity of a desperate ex. The house is quiet, save for the distant hum of the fridge and the knowledge that the entire day's worth of beauty decisions is about to begin. For a brief wild moment, you wonder if you could just roll over and sleep in. But then you remember, you're a 1950s woman, which means the only thing less socially acceptable than visible underarm hair is missing breakfast. You swing your feet onto the floor, linoleum icy and reassuringly fake. First stop the bathroom mirror. In the blue glow of morning, you confront your own reflection, which seems to be asking, "Really? This is what you're going with today?" Your hair, carefully set in curlers the night before, has chosen violence. One lock sticks out defiantly, pointing northeast, possibly in protest of your life choices. There's no such thing as rolling out of bed and heading straight for the door, not in this house. The bathroom counter is a battleground of beauty. Cold cream jars, pressed powder compacts, safety pins, tweezers, a bottle of mysterious pink liquid labelled Miracle Tonic, now banned in 37 states. And, lurking ominously, a metal eyelash curler with the look of a tiny torture device. Advertisers have convinced you that every morning is a fresh audition for your own life. Your face must be ready for anything. Door-to-door salesman, the postman, or, horror of horrors, the neighbour who just dropped by to borrow a cup of sugar and inspect your standards. Step 1. Hair. If you did it right, last night's curlers have set you up for success. If you did it wrong, you look like you lost a fight with a cotton candy machine. The 1950s are not the era for subtlety, height and volume reign supreme. You begin the daily ritual of deconstructing and teasing, spraying and smoothing, until your hair resembles something out of a shampoo commercial, or possibly a NASA weather balloon. The air thickens with hairspray, your lungs bracing for their daily chemical bath. A gentle touch test confirms your victory. Not a single hair moves, even when you blow on it. Perfect. You may not be in control of your destiny, but you're in charge of your bangs. Now for the face. Pancake makeup is your shield against the judgmental universe. You pat and blend, working to create the illusion that you woke up dewy and flawless, instead of exhausted and vaguely resentful. Next, eyebrows. In the 1950s, you're expected to pluck them to submission, shaping them into impossibly elegant arches. You do so with the precision of a neurosurgeon, aware that one false move could leave you looking permanently surprised until Christmas. Mascara comes next, 2 coats at least. The first layer goes on smoothly, the second is more ambitious, often resulting in lashes so stiff they could double as tiny batons. You lean in, scrutinizing for clumps, hoping to avoid the dreaded spider leg effect. Advertisers promise the mascara is smudge-proof, but your pillow says otherwise. And then, the lips. Red. Always red. There is no shade too bold, no hue too garish for the 1950s kitchen or grocery aisle. You trace and fill, practicing the same focused concentration you'd use to defuse a bomb. With every swipe, you ask yourself if this is the shade that will finally get you noticed by the PTA, or at least distract from your slightly crooked teeth. You step back, surveying the finished product. Do you look radiant, fresh and feminine as the commercials promised? Maybe. Or maybe you look like someone who's been in hand-to-hand combat with the Avon lady and lost. Either way, you're ready to meet the world, or at least the breakfast table. Just as you exhale in triumph, the mirror catches a stray curler you missed at the back. Sigh. Tomorrow you promise yourself you'll wake up beautiful. Tonight you'll sleep in curlers again. Because in the 1950s, the morning mirror panic isn't just a ritual, it's a lifestyle. And somehow, you've survived it. For now. Time for the most important meal of the day: coffee, toast, and a hefty serving of beauty anxiety. Advertisers insist that a real woman doesn't just serve eggs, she does it with flawless hair and matching lipstick. Hope you like your toast with a smear of existential dread. You shuffle to the kitchen, makeup set and hair sculpted into a feat of engineering, only to be greeted by your most demanding critics, your own family. The 1950s kitchen, land of gleaming linoleum, avocado appliances, and a stack of glossy magazines preaching the gospel of effortless domestic perfection. The aroma of percolating coffee mingles with that of nerves. It's showtime, and your audience is merciless. You're barely awake, yet the world expects your apron to match your nail polish and your attitude to match the weather, sunny, perky, with a 100% chance of smiling through disaster. You reach for the box of cornflakes, but pause. The box has a picture of a woman with hair so shiny you could signal passing aircraft. She's beaming at her bowl like it's a Nobel Prize. You glance at your own breakfast table. The milk's about to expire, the toast is already burnt, and someone has put peanut butter on the cat again. That's when the existential dread really kicks in. You pour yourself coffee, strong enough to dissolve a spoon, and try to remember if the commercial said caffeine was ladylike, or if it would turn you into a harried spinster. Either way, you drink it, because only one of you is waking up this morning, and it isn't your inner peace. You butter your toast with the hand not trembling from beauty-induced adrenaline. Betty Crocker's smiling at you from the cupboard, all red-lipped encouragement, while somewhere deep down you wonder if she actually existed, or was just a corporate fever dream brought on by post-war sugar rations. Now it's time for the eggs. The radio hums with the latest news, then switches to an ad reminding you that your husband's love is measured by how fluffy you can whip your omelette. You crack an egg, whisper a prayer, and hope the yolk doesn't break after all. If it does, so might your reputation as a proper wife and mother. The pancakes are uneven, the bacon's a little crispier than intended, and the orange juice is not fresh squeezed but from concentrate, which in 1953 is basically admitting you're on the road to moral ruin. Just as you're assembling breakfast, your husband walks in, still in his robe, as cheerful as someone who hasn't wrestled with their eyebrows since dawn. He glances at the table and gives you a quick peck on the cheek, murmuring, "Looks great, honey," before burying his face in the newspaper and his eggs. You eye his plate, comparing it to the full-colour, food-styled spreads in last night's Ladies' Home Journal. Your table, in comparison, looks like it was styled by raccoons. The kids wander in, hair standing on end, faces sticky from dreams, and probably last night's dessert. They're oblivious to the Herculean effort you've put into this morning's production. You ask them if they want toast or cereal. They say both, and you realise breakfast is less about nutrition and more about damage control. But before you can spiral into a reverie of inadequacy, the doorbell rings. It's the neighbour, Betty herself, or at least her spiritual cousin, here to borrow a cup of sugar, and, coincidentally, check if your kitchen towels are as colour-coordinated as hers. You smile, invite her in, and try not to let her see the inside of your oven or your soul. As everyone eats, you mentally replay the commercial for enriched Wonder Bread, which promised a home full of laughter, well-behaved children, and perfect waistlines. None of those things are present. Instead, you get crumbs, giggles, spilled juice, and the creeping suspicion that you've failed at something intangible. But the coffee is warm, the sun is up, and miraculously, everyone is fed. You clean up with a practiced smile, lipstick still intact, and wonder if tomorrow you'll finally be the kind of woman Betty Crocker would approve of. Spoiler alert, probably not. But hey, at least you survived breakfast. That's worth more than a gold star in any ad campaign. Welcome to the front lines, your scalp. The 1950s bouffant was less a hairstyle and more a physics experiment gone wrong. You're one blast of hairspray away from defying gravity and several health codes. You stand before the mirror, brush in hand, the battlefield set. It's early, but the stakes are high. Your hair, still showing the telltale lines of last night's curlers, is braced for transformation. In the 1950s, your bouffant isn't just a personal statement. It's a public service announcement. This woman means business, and possibly emergency evacuation. Step 1. The teasing. You section off a lock of hair, raising it skyward with trembling optimism, then attack with a fine-toothed comb. The motion is violent, repetitive, and vaguely therapeutic, like settling scores with your own follicles. You backcomb until the section swells with static and resentment, resembling the beginnings of a bird's nest or an abandoned insulation project. Your arm aches, your wrist is cramping, and you're pretty sure you're inhaling more hair than you're styling. Next comes the hairspray. Not just a mist, but a cloud. The bottle in your hand promises all-day hold. What it doesn't mention is the minor atmospheric event you're about to create in your bathroom. You press the nozzle. A fine, choking mist fills the air. You cough, eyes watering, but you persevere, determined to shellac each strand into submission. The fumes alone could stun a small mammal. Somewhere in the background, a canary keels over. You step back, surveying your work. It's impressive in a way. Your hair now stands a good 3 inches taller than you, refusing to move even when you do. Advertisements promised volume, glamour, the admiration of your peers, and possibly foreign dignitaries. They didn't warn you about the possibility of head injuries from low doorways, or the very real risk of starting a small fire near open flame. You remember the magazine tutorial, 5 easy steps to bouffant perfection. You are currently on step 14. Nothing about this process is easy. Pins vanish into the depths of your hair, never to be seen again. You find last week's bobby pin, a lost earring, and, was that a raisin? You decide not to investigate. Time for the finishing touches. A decorative ribbon, a strategically placed barrette, maybe even a spritz of perfume if you're feeling bold. You smooth the sides, ensuring the silhouette is perfectly symmetrical, a feat that would make a civil engineer sweat. You lean forward, checking for gaps, bumps, or the dreaded flat spot at the crown. Anything less than perfect and you'll hear about it all day, from your mother, your neighbour, the checker at the grocery store. Even the dog looks judgmental. But there's more than vanity at play here. In the 1950s, a woman's hair was both armour and expectation. It was a soft-serve swirl of hope, anxiety, and highly flammable chemicals. A bad hair day wasn't just inconvenient, it could set the tone for your entire week. You might as well tape a sign to your back that says, "Try me, I dare you." The pressure was relentless, the competition fierce. Every woman you know is waging her own private war against gravity and static cling. You've seen their bouffants, higher, shinier, possibly reinforced with rebar. By the time you're done, your scalp tingles, and your sense of accomplishment is tinged with fear. One wrong move, a gust of wind, a spontaneous rain shower, a hug from an overenthusiastic relative, and your architectural marvel could collapse. Still, you stand tall. Your bouffant casts a gentle shadow over the breakfast table. You sit, back straight, head slightly tilted, careful not to brush against the lamp. You pretend you're comfortable. You are not. But as you sip your coffee, you catch your reflection in the toaster and for just a moment feel like you could take on the world, or at least the next round of beauty ads. After all, you've survived the battle of the bouffant, and tomorrow you'll fight again. You smooth on a layer of pancake makeup thick enough to spackle drywall. Advertisers call it radiance. Your pores call it Midday. No one's leaving the house until their face is sufficiently shellacked. The process begins with a small, innocent-looking compact. Circular, beige, and containing enough powder to choke a horse. Your weapon of choice is a sponge that's seen better days, one side permanently stained from last week's colour-matching incident. You dab it in water, per the instructions, wring it out, sort of, and then begin the ritualistic smearing. The mirror watches with silent horror as you start at your forehead, buffing in circles, working downward, and marvelling as your skin tone shifts from mortally pale to deluxe mannequin. There's no such thing as subtlety. The goal isn't to look natural, it's to look impenetrable. This is the 1950s, and a bare cheek is a missed opportunity. Advertisers swear that pancake makeup is the secret to everlasting youth, flawless photos and sudden marriage proposals. You suspect it's mostly a way to sell more cold cream. With every pass of the sponge, you erase the evidence of humanity from your face. Blemishes, freckles, that one tragic sunburn from 1948, all vanish beneath a unified shade of hope and denial. You work carefully, lest you miss a spot and risk a visible seam where nature meets industry. The area around your jawline is especially treacherous. Too much blending and you're rubbing off what little self-esteem you had left. Too little and you've got a mask effect, which is only fashionable if you're robbing a bank. By the time you finish, your reflection is uncannily smooth, poreless, ageless, and possibly immune to small arms fire. You touch your cheek. It feels like velvet, but also strangely immovable, like a very lovely wall. You smile experimentally. The foundation cracks just slightly at the corners, enough to remind you that there's a reason no one in the movies ever shows teeth. Dewy isn't an option. You're going for bulletproof. Now comes the powder, a translucent dusting meant to set your handiwork. You dust your face with a powder puff the size of a throw pillow, sending fine clouds swirling through the air. Your lungs ache, but your face is, allegedly, protected from shine. The end result, matte, completely, irrevocably matte. You could fry an egg on your cheek and no oil would ever appear. Rouge comes next. The 1950s believe in a hearty, unambiguous blush, not a gentle flush, but two perfectly round patches, like the cheeks on a toy doll or the aftermath of a brisk slap. You apply it in a circle, then attempt to blend. But blending is a myth invented by those with more patience than you possess. Still, advertisers claim this is the youthful glow all men secretly adore, as if men have ever noticed blush application. You finish with a cautious once-over in the mirror, searching for streaks, patches, or, worst of all, an errant flake of powder that could betray your whole morning's labour. The compact snaps shut with an ominous click, like the final bolt on a vault door. You look ready. Ready for what, you're not sure. Grocery shopping, maybe, or possibly enduring the polite horror of your neighbour's surprise visit. Outside, the world is bright and judgmental. Your foundation, though, is brighter and less forgiving. The sun glints off your chin like a warning beacon. You can feel the makeup beginning to solidify into its midday form, a sensation somewhere between wearing a silk scarf and donning a thin, decorative helmet. Throughout the day, you will perform the touch-up shuffle, a dab of powder in the car, a quick mirror check in the ladies' room, a panicked attempt to re-blend after your child's sticky fingers graze your cheek. Advertisers promised confidence. What they delivered was a full-time job. As evening approaches, you stare down the cold cream jar, knowing it's time to dissolve the evidence. The first swipe leaves streaks of beige and regret. Still, beneath all the product, your real face survives, tired, flawed, and very much alive. But for one more day, you wore the foundation of all lies, and lived to tell the tale. Red lips are not just encouraged, they're practically mandatory. Every ad promises instant glamour, but one wrong swipe and you're the neighbourhood harlot. Good luck finding a shade that matches your living room curtains. It's not a question of whether you'll wear red lipstick today. It's a question of which red, cherry flame, scarlet victory, dynamite dame, fire engine, or the elusive evening passion that seemed made for someone else's skin tone and someone else's life. The bathroom shelf is a miniature battlefield of half-used tubes and rejected dreams, each promising to transform you into a goddess, a siren, or at the very least someone who gets a little more respect at the grocery store. You uncap a tube, twisting it up with the solemnity of a surgeon preparing for a very delicate operation. The stakes are high. One shaky hand, one minor slip, and suddenly you've crossed the line from classic sophistication to looks like she's been bobbing for tomatoes. The ads make it look so easy. Simply outline, fill, and smile. What they don't tell you is that your upper lip is shaped like a question mark, and your lower lip is on a personal quest for symmetry. You start with a lip brush, because of course, a true lady does not apply straight from the bullet. You carefully outline, tracing the boundary between temptress and Sunday school teacher. Your hand trembles slightly, because you remember what happened last week. An accidental overdraw that lingered for hours, surviving even lunch, until a friend whispered that you looked a bit too ready for Vegas. Colour selection is an act of social navigation. Too orange, and you risk looking like a Halloween prop. Too blue, and you're on your way to daring nightclub singer, a look only encouraged if you actually own a nightclub. You check your reflection in 3 types of lighting: bathroom, kitchen, and for some reason the refrigerator. Each offers a slightly different shade of existential panic. It's not enough just to pick a colour, you must also pick an identity. Are you the gala queen, the modern mum, or the power secretary? Each brand markets a slightly different fantasy. One promises confidence in a single swipe. Another assures you of kiss-proof, husband-approved staying power, as if your entire self-worth depends on the answer to will it come off on his collar. Spoiler, it will, and it will be blamed on you. Once you've committed, it's time for the ritual blot, tissue pressed between lips, a technique that, when done wrong, leaves you with patchy lips and an imprint that resembles a Rorschach test. Then, the second layer, because double coating is not just for paint, it's for women who refuse to be outdone by Doris next door. All this effort is not just for men, or even other women. It's for the advertisements, the glossy magazines, the unseen judges that lurk in every shop window and family photo. The message is clear. Red lips are the uniform, the flag you wave to announce your participation in the great mid-century beauty pageant. But the danger is always present. One bite of toast, one sip of coffee, and the colour migrates, upward, downward, anywhere but on the actual lips. Longwear technology in the 1950s is a polite fiction, an invention on par with calorie-free chocolate and polite dinner conversation. You find yourself sneaking off to the bathroom for constant check-ins, the mirror your only true friend and harshest critic. And then there's the matter of coordination. Your red must not only suit your face but also your dress, your bag, your nails, and ideally your living room curtains, which is a standard set by no less an authority than Good Housekeeping. Anything less, and someone will notice. They always notice. By noon, you've touched up 3 times, smiled with your teeth carefully concealed, and given up on eating anything that requires chewing. But as you catch your reflection in the bakery window, there it is, a flash of colour, a bold signal. Maybe the shade is a little crooked, maybe it's not quite right, but for a moment you look like someone who's winning the arms race, one glorious smear at a time. And in the world of 1950s beauty, sometimes that's all the victory you need. If eyebrows are the windows to the soul, then 1950s advertisers wanted yours tightly shut. You grab the tweezers and pray, because this morning your arches could make or break your marriage prospects. You stand inches from the mirror, breath held, peering at your reflection with a mixture of dread and grim determination. The morning light is merciless, exposing every stray hair, every tiny rebellion against conformity. You already know the rules. Your brows must be thin but not too thin, arched but not villainous, defined but not, heaven forbid, unladylike. Advertisers parade an endless parade of starlets across your magazines. Elizabeth Taylor, Audrey Hepburn, women with eyebrows so perfect they look individually engineered by NASA. You, on the other hand, are armed only with your trusty tweezers, a simple device with all the gentleness of a medieval torture implement. The goal? To sculpt, to tame, to erase any sign of untamed wilderness above your eyes. Because in the 1950s, nothing says well-adjusted woman quite like a brow that's been bullied into a gentle camera-ready arch. You begin, methodically, plucking one hair at a time, wincing with each sharp sting. Your eyes water, partly from pain, partly from the creeping anxiety that one false pluck could leave you with an arch so uneven your own mother won't recognize you. There's no room for improvisation here. The look of the day is tailored, intentional, those neat swooping arches that whisper I'm elegant and unbothered even as your cuticles throb with effort. Occasionally you step back to assess the damage, hoping to see the graceful rise and fall of a perfect arch. Instead, you spot the dreaded asymmetry. One brow is inching upward, the other sullenly flat. You wonder if you could just start a new fashion trend. The surprised and skeptical look. But you know better. If your brows don't match, someone at the grocery store will point it out, and the church ladies will whisper that you've lost your touch. The pressure is intense. This isn't just about vanity. A well-plucked brow signals respectability, discipline, even marital bliss. Advertisers claim that a good arch will bring you compliments, friends, and possibly an upgraded toaster. A misstep, on the other hand, and you're 1 inch away from scandalous. The world may never see your vacuum lines, but everyone will see your eyebrows. When the tweezing is done, you take up the brow pencil a little waxy stick that claims to fill, define, and perfect. You try not to think about the last time you went too heavy and spent the day looking permanently startled. A gentle, light-handed stroke is the goal, but the results are as unpredictable as a summer storm. The pencil's universal brown seems to be universally wrong, but you soldier on, determined to disguise any patchy spots left from overzealous tweezing. Advertisers promise that penciled brows are the final touch of glamour, as if the entirety of your personal worth is resting on a few lines of pigment. You comb them through, fanning the hairs upward, praying for symmetry. The tension is broken only by the occasional shout from the kitchen. Someone's asking about breakfast, but you can't face eggs until you face your own reflection. One last check. You practice your most serene look, tilting your head like a movie star, raising one brow just enough to look mysterious, but not enough to risk another round with the tweezers. Finally, it's over. Your brows have survived another morning, shaped and shaded, tiny testaments to your endurance and attention to detail. You step back, examining the full effect in the mirror. Do you look elegant, sophisticated, or just like someone who's been through something? The truth is, most people won't notice your brows unless you make a mistake. But in the 1950s, the fear of eyebrow-based judgment is enough to keep you sweating through even the iciest cold cream. You leave the bathroom with your chin high, knowing your arches are sharp enough to cut glass. Today, you are a survivor of the brow wars, a woman who plucked, penciled, and persevered. And if anyone asks why you look a little wide-eyed, just smile sweetly and say, "It's fashion, darling, you wouldn't understand." Time to douse yourself in enough perfume to evacuate a small theatre. A real lady is supposed to leave a trail of floral scent behind her, preferably so strong it masks the aroma of suppressed ambition. The ritual begins before you're even fully awake. A quick spritz behind each ear, on each wrist, a dab at the hollow of the throat at least. That's what the beauty columnists suggest. But in practice, restraint is for quitters. This is the 1950s, and every magazine and radio ad urges you to commit to a scent profile loud enough to announce your presence before you enter a room and linger for hours after you've left. You select your weapon, perhaps Chanel No. 5, the reigning empress of all things feminine, or maybe the more adventurous Evening in Paris, a fragrance that comes in a blue bottle shaped like a tiny mystery. Maybe you're feeling experimental, something with notes of rose, jasmine, sandalwood, and barely contained desperation. You uncap the bottle and tip it gingerly, but as always, a little too much spills onto your palm. You try to dab discreetly, but end up with a tidal wave of scent that could mask a 3-alarm fire. No matter. The point is not to smell natural. The point is to smell expensive, available in department stores everywhere and in the pages of Ladies' Home Journal. The ads claim your perfume will enchant your husband, win you friends, and perhaps even convince the checkout boy at the grocer to pack your eggs more gently. The reality is closer to stunning the family dog and possibly driving away mosquitoes for the season. And that's just the beginning. Next comes the powder, finely milled, delicately scented, and designed to settle over your face and décolletage like the world's softest dust storm. The powder puff, large enough to qualify as a flotation device, launches a blizzard of petal flesh or peach dream across your carefully shellacked complexion. Some inevitably drifts down your blouse or up your nose, leaving you in a coughing fit and cloud of artificial gardenia. You pat and press, hoping to blur the edges between luminous glow and pasty chalk as the ad copywriters intended. The bathroom counter is now coated in a thin layer of sweet-smelling dust. You inhale. Your lungs are coated too. This is how you know you're ready to be seen in public. Scent is social armour in the 1950s. Women are told to powder their noses before every outing and after every minor inconvenience. Is your nose shiny? Powder? Did you just sneeze? Powder. Is your marriage teetering on the brink? Powder, darling. A real lady maintains a powdery mystique at all times, even if it means you leave pale smudges on every handshake and faint rose aromas in every taxi you enter. Of course, there are hazards. You've read the etiquette columns. Never overdo it, but never underdo it. Subtlety is key, except when it isn't. Your neighbour, Gladys, will scowl if your scent carries, but will also gossip if you show up smelling of, heaven forbid, plain soap. Meanwhile, men are told to appreciate a whisper of fragrance. Though you suspect most can't distinguish Chanel from eau de mop water, still, it's a daily gamble. You stride out into the world trailing a scent cloud and a fine layer of powder that could be mapped by weather satellites. Strangers sneeze, small children recoil, but you, undaunted, take your place at the coffee clatch, confident that, at least for now, no one can smell the cold sweat of self-doubt beneath your lavender haze. And so, for one more day, you live inside your scented shell, a fragrant fortress against the world's expectations. If you catch someone's eye, you'll never know if it's admiration or the early signs of a perfume-induced faint. Either way, you've played your part, powdered, perfumed, and ready for whatever or whoever comes next. You wriggle into a girdle with the flexibility of an iron lung. Advertisers promise an instant hourglass figure. The only thing instant is your loss of feeling below the waist. The battle begins before breakfast. You eye your undergarments with suspicion, as if they might lash out. The girdle, a marvel of post-war engineering, waits for you on the bed, coiled like a python, ready to challenge your dignity, lung capacity, and sense of self-worth. The box it came in features a cheerful, slim-waisted cartoon lady, smiling vacantly into the middle distance, presumably because she's lost all sensation in her extremities. You approach the task with a sense of ritual, rolling the girdle down over your hands, praying to the household saints for guidance. It takes a blend of technique and raw determination. You step in, one foot then the other, and begin the slow, undignified ascent up your legs. There's wiggling, there's hopping, there's the kind of contorted squatting you thought you left behind in childhood games of leapfrog. The material itself is unyielding, a complex weave of elastic, rubber, nylon, and unfulfilled promises. At the halfway mark you pause, breathless, one leg trapped at a 45-degree angle. You're reminded of the ads in the back of McCall's for the modern woman on the go. Well, you're not going anywhere fast. After a few minutes of tactical squirming and at least one existential crisis, the girdle is finally in place, hugging your waist, hips, and what remains of your ambition. You look in the mirror. Hourglass? Sort of. Panic-stricken sand timer? Definitely. The sensation is less snug and more structural support. Advertisers call it gentle shaping. You'd call it circulatory arrest. But that's just the start. Because the 1950s ensemble is not complete without garters, dainty, complicated devices designed to hold up your nylon stockings with all the grace of a medieval pulley system. You fetch your stockings, careful not to snag them on your now razor-sharp nails. Fashion is pain, after all, and slide them gingerly up your legs. The nylons, thin as a politician's promise, threaten to run at the slightest provocation. You attach each stocking to the garter clasps, tiny hooks that require the manual dexterity of a bomb squad technician. Snap, snap, snap. A prayer for mercy. One clasp inevitably pops free as soon as you stand up, turning your morning into a game of where's that sudden draft coming from? The end result. Legs so smooth and shiny you could signal ships at sea. You smooth your skirt over your newly restrained frame and try to walk with an air of effortless femininity. The reality is a carefully managed waddle, knees close together, every step calculated to avoid a wardrobe malfunction that could bring shame to your household for generations. The magazine ads assure you this is freedom, a way to move with confidence and live the active life. In reality, you're acutely aware of every movement, every shallow breath, every tingle in your toes as you wonder if you'll need to explain your wardrobe to your doctor by lunchtime. Women's magazines offer tips. Take shallow breaths. Keep calm in hot weather. Do not, under any circumstances, attempt to climb stairs quickly. There's even advice for girdle fatigue, which sounds like a joke but is, in fact, a Tuesday. And yet, you persist. Not because you enjoy being trussed like a holiday ham, but because this is the price of beauty, of femininity, of not being whispered about at the grocer's. Your mother wore girdles, her mother before her, and you suspect somewhere your ancestors are both proud and deeply amused. By noon you're longing for release, by dinner you're counting down the minutes. And when the moment of freedom finally comes, when the girdle peels away and blood rushes back to your lower limbs, it's pure, silent ecstasy. You survived another day, hourglass intact, with just a few faint welts and the unspoken solidarity of every woman who's ever fought the war on circulation. If you've ever tried to wrangle nylon stockings onto freshly lotioned legs, you know true fear. One snag, and your day is ruined, according to every ad and most of your friends. The morning begins innocently enough with a bath, a cloud of powder, and a generous helping of lotion, perhaps too generous. That's your first mistake. You unroll the nylons with trembling hands, holding your breath the way a bomb disposal expert might approach a suspicious package. These are not just any stockings. These are nylons, the shimmering badge of mid-century respectability, thin enough to see your future unravelling with every stretch. You gingerly gather each stocking, rolling it down to the toe. You tell yourself to be gentle. You pray that your nails, filed last night for this very moment, are truly snag-proof. You begin the upward journey, sliding the delicate fabric over your foot, your ankle, your calf, as if you're performing a sacred rite. The nylon resists, clinging to the faintest droplet of lotion, twisting with each movement, determined to travel everywhere but up. The ads make it look so easy, smiling women, all teeth and grace, effortlessly sliding on their stockings without so much as a whisper of a wrinkle. You, however, are sweating like a prize-fighter, bent double on the edge of the bed, muttering curses and promising to write angry letters to whoever invented the term run resistant. Because there is no such thing. Resistance is futile, and then it happens, a snag. Maybe it's a dry patch of skin, maybe it's the universe reminding you not to get too comfortable. The horror dawns slowly, a faint pull, a whisper of a tear, a thin white line that will, within hours, blossom into a full-blown ladder. It's not just a cosmetic emergency, it's a social one. The rules are clear. A woman in the 1950s is only as put together as her hosiery. One visible run, and you may as well have shown up barefoot or worse in sensible shoes. You consider your options. There's always nail polish, clear if you're lucky enough to have it, or red if you're feeling daring. You dab the spot, creating a tiny sticky memorial to your fleeting optimism. Maybe you can hide the run under your skirt hem, walk with just the right amount of nonchalance, hope no one notices. But someone always notices. At church, at the grocery store, in line at the post office, eagle-eyed ladies whose greatest joy is detecting hosiery infractions and relaying them across the neighbourhood grapevine. Assuming you've survived the initial donning, your next challenge is the day itself. Every moment is an exercise in caution. Don't cross your legs too briskly, don't brush up against that rattan chair, don't let the dog get too affectionate. You walk through your day with the careful, measured movements of a professional dancer, calculating each step, every bend and twist, lest the delicate latticework of nylon give way under the strain of modern life. And let's not forget the garters. Each snap is a tiny leap of faith, the thin bands clutching your stockings in a desperate embrace. If one slips, the stockings begin a slow descent, threatening to pull at your ankles at the worst possible moment. You spend the day conducting stealthy adjustments, ducking into bathrooms, employing an array of tricks worthy of a magician, yank, twist, re-snap, pray. By late afternoon, your calves are striped with impressions, your nerves are shot, and you've developed a sixth sense for hostile furniture. You make it home, remove your shoes, and finally peel the nylons away with a sigh of relief, and the resignation that tomorrow you'll do it all again. Because for all their torment, nylons are the sign you've tried, you've cared, you've played the game, at least until the next ladder spells social doom. Still, you survived. That, and not the seamless finish, is what truly counts. You practice walking in heels, a purse swinging from your arm at precisely the right angle. If you don't look graceful, the soap company wants you to try again, maybe with their feminine deodorant powder this time. The 1950s. Woman's walk is not simply a matter of locomotion, it is a performance. Advertisers insist that every step you take, whether to the supermarket or the school bake sale, should radiate poise, confidence, and a gentle cloud of lavender. The magazines print diagrams, the television offers demonstrations. Glide, don't stomp, hips forward, shoulders back, smile, but don't overdo it or someone will think you're up to something. You watch those black and white commercials in awe as a woman floats across her living room, apparently immune to gravity, marital frustration, and foot pain. You, however, are less gliding swan and more startled giraffe. The heels, purchased at great expense and greater discomfort, clamp your feet in a vice, elevating you several inches above your natural station in life and robbing you of all confidence below the knee. The purse is both accessory and prop, a shield for your midsection, a distraction for idle hands, and, if necessary, a makeshift weapon against lecherous salesmen or surprise weather. You attempt to mimic the TV ladies, head held high, eyes forward, shoulders gently aligned. The trick is to look as if you're walking nowhere in particular, even when you're late for the bus. The soap commercials are relentless in their messaging. Grace is learned, not born, and the right bar of soap will transform even the clumsiest duckling into a swan. Never mind that most of your neighbours have flat feet and bunions from years of ladylike shoes. Beauty is pain, and awkwardness is a personal failing. Of course, it's not just about movement. No, every step is choreographed to show off the best of yourself and the best of whatever product you're allegedly using. Hands must never swing wildly, unfeminine, nor hang limp, bored, possibly criminal. They should rest lightly on the handle of your handbag, elbow bent at a casually charming angle. If you pass someone you know, you're to offer a gentle nod, a serene half smile, and a brief whiff of your deodorant powder. A scent engineered to reassure the world that you're both clean and emotionally stable. The path itself is fraught with obstacles. Uneven sidewalks, cracked linoleum, the rogue toy left by a child with questionable intentions, all lie in wait, ready to test your composure. Every step is a gamble. Will your heel catch in the pavement? Will the purse slip off your arm? Will your deodorant powder survive the first hint of stress? The answer is probably not. But you press on, determined not to let the soap companies down. By midday, you have developed a signature walk, part mincing, part determined trudge. You've caught your reflection in a shop window and adjusted your stride accordingly. No overstriding, masculine, no shuffling, elderly, no quick darting, suspicious. Just a smooth, regulated pace that says, I am a woman in control of her body and her odour. Of course, some days are better than others. Sometimes your walk inspires confidence. Other times, you trip over your own feet and spill half your purse's contents at the pharmacy counter, revealing to the world your emergency safety pin, 3 crumpled tissues and a secret stash of mints. The clerk raises an eyebrow. You blush, collect yourself, and carry on, chin high, dignity restored by sheer force of will and the lingering scent of jasmine talc. Because in the 1950s, the feminine walk is more than a way to get from A to B. It's a daily gauntlet, an audition, and a chance to prove, for better or worse, that you too can glide through life like the ladies on TV. Or at least fake it until the camera stops rolling. It's time to compare your sandwich sealing skills to the other wives. Advertisers have convinced you that happiness is a tight lid and a tighter smile. The Tupperware party invitation arrived last week, delivered by hand, of course, because nothing says community quite like a perfumed card tucked into your mailbox with the stealth of a Cold War spy drop. You set aside your best dress, a fresh tube of lipstick, and a not-so-secret hope that this time you'll finally master the elusive burp seal. Because in 1950s suburbia, the true measure of a woman is not the content of her character, but the sound her storage containers make. You arrive at the hostess's house, greeted by the intoxicating aroma of percolated coffee and a sea of polite, competitive smiles. The living room has been transformed into a plastic wonderland, every surface adorned with bowls, canisters, tumblers, and the jewel of the collection, the matching pastel cake keeper. The Tupperware lady herself stands at the centre, crisp suit, helmet hair, and a megawatt grin that could outshine the kitchen chandelier. You take your seat between Doris, who claims her jello mould hasn't leaked since Easter of '52, and Shirley, who's brought a colour-coordinated casserole just to test the product. The demonstration begins. The Tupperware lady launches into a performance that would make Broadway blush, describing the scientifically designed lids, the revolutionary airtight seals, and the many ways these humble containers will transform your chaotic leftovers into model citizens. She taps, twists and flexes plastic with the reverence usually reserved for priceless art. The showstopper, though, is the sandwich box challenge. With theatrical flair, the Tupperware lady packs, seals and flips her container, holding it upside down for all to see. Not a single crumb escapes. You gasp, genuine or not, it's expected, and wonder if your home kitchen can ever measure up. Advertisers say this is happiness. No leaks, no spills, just domestic tranquility in a pastel shell. The competition is subtle but fierce. Each woman eyes her neighbour's lap, checking for stains or an out-of-place crumb. Conversations become duels. Who can keep lettuce crispest? Whose cold cuts last the longest? Who's memorised the most recipes from the pamphlet? When it's your turn to try the burp seal, your hands tremble. You press the lid, search for the telltale snap, and there, the tiniest puff of air, triumph. The other ladies nod in approval, though you suspect some are taking mental notes for the next gathering. Of course, no party is complete without the catalogue. It's passed around like a sacred text, dog-eared and full of wish lists. You circle the new devilled egg tray, the butter dish, the drink shaker, for those rare secret evenings when someone sneaks a splash of gin. You add up the prices in your head, justifying every purchase as an investment in the family. Never mind that your pantry is already a small museum of obsolete food storage solutions. Beneath the chatter and demonstrations, the real purpose of the party hums quietly. Connection. In a world where so much is measured, waists, lipstick shades, sandwich freshness, these gatherings are both a competition and a lifeline. You laugh a little louder than necessary, smile until your cheeks ache, and bond with the others over tips, tricks, and tiny humiliations. I once melted a lid on the stove. Shh, don't tell anyone. When the time comes to leave, you clutch your order slip and your sample prize, a petite cup in mint green, feeling a complicated mix of relief and pride. You survived another afternoon in the proving ground of American domesticity. Your sandwiches will never dry out, your smile never slip, and maybe, just maybe, next time, you'll be the one who burps the loudest. Because in the world of Tupperware, happiness is always sealed, stacked, and colour-coordinated, even if it's just for show. You're expected to smile at all times. Advertisers suggest that your husband might leave you if your teeth are less than blindingly white. Past the baking soda and the generational trauma. The rules are simple. You must be pleasant, you must be cheerful, and above all, you must smile. Preferably with a mouthful of teeth so dazzling they could signal ships at sea. In every magazine, toothpaste ad, and household advice column, you are greeted by a parade of women, perfect coifs, perfect complexions, and a perfect set of teeth spread in a wide, earnest grin. The caption always promises that her marriage, her career, and her casserole are all flourishing thanks to the miracle of dental hygiene. You, meanwhile, have been awake since dawn, wrangling children, battling bread dough, and dodging existential dread, all while the weight of smile hangs around your neck like a too-tight pearl choker. Your teeth. Let's just say, dazzling isn't the first word that comes to mind, unless you count dazzlingly average. In the 1950s, however, average is simply not allowed. It's not enough to be clean, you must be gleaming. The ads are ruthless. They show before and after shots. The former, a grim, gloomy woman with dingy teeth and the aura of a failed house party. The latter, a radiant goddess beaming out from between fresh white curtains. The message is clear. You're either one whitening session away from happiness, or one shade of yellow away from social exile. The toothpaste companies parade their new formulas, now with extra sparkle, guaranteed to wow your boss and your bridge club, as if the path to self-actualization lies somewhere between sodium fluoride and a tube of Pepsodent. And so, armed with a fresh box of baking soda and the tiniest toothbrush known to humankind, you get to work. You scrub, you polish, you rinse, all while humming the jingle that's been drilled into your subconscious by 1,000 radio commercials. The taste is bitter, the effort Herculean, and the results, well, they depend on the lighting. But the ritual is never just about oral hygiene. No, it's about self-control, self-presentation, and above all the careful concealment of all your feelings that don't fit behind a sparkling white smile. You practice in the mirror, stretching your lips just so, ensuring your upper teeth are on full display and that your eyes don't betray the fact that you're dead inside. Smile, dear, your mother always said, no matter what. By now, the muscles in your face operate independently, capable of projecting warmth while you silently plot your escape from the next PTA bake sale. There are hazards. A smile too broad, you're desperate. Too narrow, you're cold. Show gums, you're vulgar. Show nothing, you're a communist. No wonder you lie awake at night imagining your teeth falling out one by one, a classic anxiety dream. But in the 1950s, it's just Tuesday. Then there's the fresh breath arms race, a competition waged with mouthwash so harsh it could double as floor cleaner. Advertisers remind you that one whiff of morning breath will banish you to the social wilderness. You swish and gargle, tears running down your cheeks until your breath is sterile and your tongue is numb. The only thing more thoroughly sanitized is your soul. Throughout the day, you deploy your smile like a shield, at the grocer's, at church, in the pickup line at school. Even when the dog tracks mud through the kitchen, or your child presents a report card best described as ambitious, you flash those pearly whites and soldier on. The neighbours may gossip about your casserole, but no one can fault your good attitude, and so you keep grinning, through stress, through mess, through the slow ache in your jaw, because in the 1950s, a woman's smile is her signature, her armour, and sometimes her last line of defence. One day, you hope, it might actually feel real, but for now, it's enough to know that, with every perfectly performed smile, you are winning the quiet battle of the teeth. Even if your molars are plotting a rebellion, no one is allowed body hair, especially not women. You wield a razor like a weapon, shaving your legs to please the beauty gods and the men's razor industry. The ritual begins at the bathroom sink, in the pale dawn light, armed with a pink plastic razor that feels suspiciously identical to your husband's, except for the pastel colour and twice the price. You glance down at your ankles and see the faint, scandalous shadow of stubble, the kind of thing that could turn the neighbour's polite smile into a hissed comment behind a gloved hand at bridge club. In the 1950s, advertisements aren't just suggestions, they're threats. Smooth legs are a must for the modern woman. They scream, as if leg hair is a criminal offence punishable by revoked dinner invitations. You splash lukewarm water onto your skin, your only real defence against razor burn, and lather up with a soap that smells like gardenias and lost hope. The first swipe is tentative, testing the sharpness of a blade that was probably manufactured during the last administration. You pray for a clean line, but the razor has other plans. It skips, it catches, it leaves behind a patchy mosaic that would impress a cubist painter. Advertisers promised silky, smooth legs in seconds, but they never showed the blood, the nicks, the tiny yelps of pain as you turn the sink basin pink. You work up your calf, toes clenched in anticipation, as if that will somehow protect you from disaster. The radio in the next room plays a cheerful jingle. For legs he'll love to touch, as if your primary goal is to resemble a well-plucked chicken for someone else's benefit. You sigh, glancing at the clock. This is the 7th time this week you've performed this dance, because stubble is a word only spoken in hushed tones, like divorce or TV dinners. It's not just the legs. Oh, no. The underarms must be just as smooth, possibly smoother, as they're on near-constant display every time you reach for a can of peas or wave across the driveway. Out comes the razor again, and with it, another round of balancing, stretching, and hoping you don't accidentally remove a patch of skin you intended to keep. If you're lucky, you escape with only a few red dots, battle scars in the endless war on body hair. For the especially brave, or the especially masochistic, there's depilatory cream. It arrives in a cheerful tube with bright flowers on the label, masking the chemical warfare within. Just smooth it on and wipe the hair away, they promise, never mentioning the acrid smell or the slow, burning sensation that makes you question your life choices. You count the minutes, then the seconds, before washing it off with frantic urgency, hoping to emerge hairless and unscathed. Sometimes you win, sometimes you don't. After the ordeal, you pat your legs dry, surveying your work. The result? A patchwork of near perfection, a couple of scrapes, and the hope that no one will look too closely at your ankles during church on Sunday. You reach for the baby oil, the final step, designed to impart a radiant sheen. But really, it's a soothing balm for the war-torn fields that were once your shins. The magazines assure you that every woman is doing the same. Smiling ladies pose on beaches, running their hands over impossibly flawless legs, as if they simply woke up that way. You know better. Somewhere, there is a sisterhood of women hiding band-aids beneath their hose, exchanging tips on how to avoid razor rash, and still make it to the grocery store by noon. You slip on your stockings and step out into the day, legs tingling and heart pounding. Maybe the beauty gods are satisfied, maybe not. But for now, you have survived the razor's edge of sanity, until tomorrow's stubble appears and the cycle begins anew. You thought you could save a buck and perm your own hair. Now your kitchen smells like a chemistry set and your hair is in open revolt. Beauty is pain, but this is ridiculous. The decision was made after seeing yet another radiant woman on TV, her curls bouncing with gravity-defying glee, promising you too could have salon results at home. The store shelf was loaded with brightly coloured boxes, gentle curls, lasting body, foolproof, all with the faintest whiff of deceit. Still, Armed with optimism and the reckless spirit of a pioneer, you brought one home. The instructions seemed simple enough, printed in cheerful pastel ink. Step 1, wash hair. Step 2, part hair into sections. Step 3, apply solution, wait, and voila. But you already sense trouble. You try to part your hair into neat, even sections, but by the third go-round, you're working with clumps best described as interpretive. The kitchen table is strewn with plastic rods, tissue paper, a towel you hope to never use again, and that one comb with half its teeth missing, your most loyal tool. You pour the waving lotion into the tiny bowl provided, which looks suspiciously like something you'd use for dipping shrimp. The scent hits instantly, sharp, acrid, unmistakably scientific. It burns your eyes and tickles the back of your throat, making you wonder if the cat should be sent outside for her own safety. Still, you soldier on. You wrap, twist and clip, hands sticky and slippery all at once, as you wrestle each lock onto a curler. Your arms ache by section 5, your patience by section 6. By the time your entire head is trussed up in a rainbow of plastic, you're already regretting every choice you've made since breakfast. The timer ticks down ominously as you apply the waving solution, drenching each curler with trembling hope. The instructions warn against leaving it on too long, or else you'll be blessed with a look best suited to poodles and unfortunate science experiments. You pass the time reading the box, enjoy soft, natural waves, while glancing at your reflection, which resembles a nervous Medusa midway through a transformation. The smell has permeated everything. The kitchen now doubles as a laboratory, your towel as a containment field. The children avoid the room, the dog howls from a safe distance, and your husband offers supportive comments from behind a closed door. When the timer finally dings, you rinse and neutralize with the urgency of someone defusing a bomb. The water runs over your face and down your arms, carrying the remnants of your hope straight into the sink. You gingerly unclip the curlers, feeling the moment of truth approach, with all the tension of opening your report card. Some curls spring free, bouncing up with more enthusiasm than you've felt in weeks. Others lie flat, limp, or at right angles, defying every rule of geometry and good taste. A few have fused together into a matted chunk that will require diplomatic negotiations, and possibly a pair of scissors. You pat your hair dry, the acrid aroma still lingering, and assess the damage. The result is a statement. Somewhere between classic waves and tornado aftermath. You try brushing, fluffing, pleading, but the hair has made its decision. It will not be tamed. The next week is spent taming, pinning, and hiding the evidence under scarves, hats, or strategic denial. Every mirror is an adversary, every breeze a threat. Still, you survived. You face down chemicals and curler rods in your own kitchen, and while the results may be more cautionary tale than glamorous starlet, you wear it with stubborn pride. Besides, you remind yourself as you drift off to sleep, true beauty is never as easy as the box claims. And tomorrow, you'll probably do it all over again, hopefully with less science and a lot more luck. From douches to deodorant sprays, advertisers promised women freshness at all costs. The price, your dignity, your health, and maybe a few relationships. It begins first thing in the morning before your feet even hit the linoleum. That little voice in your head, fed by decades of radio jingles and magazine ads, asks, "Are you fresh enough? Are you clean enough?" The implication is clear. If there's even a whiff of uncertainty, social doom is inevitable. In the 1950s, freshness isn't just an ideal, it's a full-time job, and you're expected to clock in daily. You approach the bathroom cabinet, a veritable arsenal of products promising to keep you in a permanent state of dewy innocence. There's the powder, the lotion, the spray, the cream, each scented to mask not only body odour, but apparently any trace of personality. You apply deodorant with the enthusiasm of someone trying to qualify for the Olympics. 24-hour protection. The can promises, though you know from experience you'll be reapplying before lunch, just in case the mailman catches you in a moment of weakness. Then comes the body spray, a flowery mist designed to outlast both bad moods and inclement weather. You spritz under each arm, behind your knees, down your blouse, and, if you're feeling particularly vulnerable, a little behind your ears for luck. The cloud lingers, cloying and slightly medicinal, mingling with the talcum powder that now coats every surface like post-war fallout. Somewhere, a manufacturer counts another sale and pats themselves on the back. But the pressure doesn't end there. The real terror lurks in the form of feminine hygiene, Advertisements have spent years convincing you that your body is a ticking time bomb of embarrassing odours, best neutralised with a cocktail of products more at home in a laboratory than a powder room. The douche, a device equal parts promise and threat. It's sold as the solution to all life's problems, bad moods, bad marriages, even bad casseroles. A quick rinse and presto, all your worries, and maybe your good bacteria, gone. The instructions are clinical, promising a fresh, clean feeling that lasts all day. What they don't mention is the side effects: burning, stinging, and a sudden, unshakable fear that you've just ruined your pH balance and any hope of ever again trusting your own body. You read the label, ingredients you can't pronounce, warnings in fine print. But you soldier on, convinced that cleanliness, at least as defined by advertisers, is just out of reach. Everywhere you turn, another ad is there to remind you. A woman's reputation is only as fresh as her scent. The anxiety builds. You wonder if your friends notice. You wonder if your husband notices. You wonder if your dog notices. The answer is probably no, but the paranoia is part of the packaging. You attend a bridge club sitting next to Doris, who smells like an entire bouquet and never appears to sweat. You cross your legs, dab discreetly with a linen hanky, and pray your deodorant is holding strong. The conversation turns to freshness, of pies, of breath, of underarms. Tips and tricks are exchanged in code, or while you mentally run through a checklist of products applied, worried you've missed a step and that your failure is on the verge of becoming public knowledge. Of course, the quest for freshness is never complete. The more you buy, the more you need. Now with new floral scent, improved formula, gentle enough for daily use. The claims multiply, but the insecurity lingers. You keep reaching for the next miracle solution, hoping it will finally be enough. At the end of the day, you stand in front of the bathroom mirror, sniff, sigh, and realise you've made it. Another day survived. Another battle fought in the never-ending war on natural biology. You tuck away your arsenal, knowing tomorrow you'll begin the frantic search all over again. Because in the 1950s, being fresh isn't just about being clean, it's about survival. And nobody wants to be the one who gets talked about on the drive home. A proper lady eats lunch with friends, orders the diet plate and agrees that real beauty comes from within, preferably within a very tight dress. The invitations went out weeks ago, handwritten and scented with lavender, because a luncheon is nothing without a little premeditated anticipation. The venue is a bright corner of the local tea room, walls cheerfully wallpapered and tables draped with starched white cloths. You arrive in your best frock, hair lacquered and lips freshly blotted, heart fluttering as you step into a sea of pastel dresses and perfectly manicured hands. This is the proving ground for suburban femininity, equal parts charm, offensive, and nutritional negotiation. The ritual begins with a chorus of compliments. "My, don't you look slim? That colour is divine on you." Each one delivered with a smile that's 90% sincerity and 10% silent calorie counting. You return the favour, all the while tugging at the hem of your girdle and hoping today's menu isn't another minefield of cream sauces and bread baskets. When the waitress arrives, you all order the same thing. "I'll have the diet plate, please. It's tradition." The diet plate, a perennial favourite, consists of a scoop of cottage cheese perched on a leaf of iceberg lettuce, 2 slices of tomato, and a sprig of parsley for optimism. Occasionally there's a hard-boiled egg. Everything is served with a small plastic cup of salad cream, an invention presumably designed by someone who wanted mayonnaise but felt it wasn't nearly bland enough. You pick at your lunch with the delicate precision of a bird, careful not to finish too quickly or appear too enthusiastic. Across the table, Doris sighs, confiding she's given up bread for Lent, or maybe for life. She can't remember anymore. Shirley, meanwhile, swears by her new grapefruit diet, which promises weight loss and possibly enlightenment, depending on which magazine you consult. The real feast, though, isn't on the plate, it's the conversation. Between bites of lettuce, secrets are swapped like recipes. The latest gossip about Mrs. Parker's new hair colour, theories about why Helen's husband was at the hardware store on a Wednesday afternoon, whispered confessions about children, husbands, and the state of one's cuticles. Each secret is tossed into the mix with the same discretion as the extra dollop of salad cream you snuck on the side. Occasionally someone references inner beauty. This is said with a knowing smile, as if the phrase alone might loosen the seams of your dress. "It's what's inside that counts," someone proclaims, dabbing her lips with a napkin. though what's inside today is mostly leafy greens and suppressed longing for a BLT. You nod along, eyes darting to the dessert tray as it makes the rounds, three-tiered and laden with cakes, but destined to remain untouched except for the most daring or rebellious soul. After lunch, there's coffee, black of course, and perhaps a single sugar cube for show. You talk about garden clubs and bridge games, about children's school plays and the latest coupon for cold cream. The conversation dances between the trivial and the conspiratorial, a balancing act performed with grace and the occasional pointed look. As the check arrives, everyone insists on paying their share, careful not to reveal who has been budgeting for a new pair of heels. You leave the tea room a little lighter, mostly in wallet, somewhat in spirit. There's a camaraderie in these gatherings, a quiet acknowledgement that beneath the powder and pleasantries, everyone's just doing their best to stay afloat in a sea of social expectations and cottage cheese. By the time you're home, you've already forgotten the taste of lunch, but remember every whispered secret, every inside joke. You hang up your dress, loosen your girdle, and exhale. Another luncheon survived, another performance complete. Real beauty, it turns out, may come from within, but survival, well, that comes from sticking together, one salad at a time. Your face begins to melt by 2 p.m. It's time for a covert powder-up in the ladies' room, accompanied by whispered advice and the whiff of desperation. The clock strikes 2 and you can feel it happening. First a slick sheen above the upper lip, then a suspicious creasing along the jawline. Finally, that deep, existential panic. Is my mascara sliding south? You try to ignore it, but your reflection in the office window or the shop's glass door confirms your worst fear. The hours spent that morning painting, powdering, and perfecting your appearance are unravelling, one sweat bead at a time. The 1950s promised all-day radiance, but neglected to mention what happens after lunch. You scan the room, eyes darting for the nearest exit. The answer is always the same. The ladies' room, sanctuary and battleground for the midday beauty crisis. You slip away, clutching your handbag like a lifeline, lips pursed with purpose. Once inside, you join the silent sisterhood. Other women lined up at the mirror, each performing their own delicate triage. The scent is a blend of lavender powder, perfume, and fear. You stake out your corner of the counter and dive in. The compact emerges, round, gleaming, filled with hope and crumbling pressed powder. You dab at your T-zone, pat your cheeks, blend the edges with a practiced touch, and pray you don't inhale too much. There's always one woman who overdoes it, emerging from her stall in a white cloud reminiscent of a dust storm on the Oklahoma plains. Next comes the lipstick. By mid-afternoon, it's become a faded outline, clinging bravely to the corners of your mouth. The trick is to reapply without looking like you've had one too many afternoon cocktails. You swipe, blot and smudge, hoping for fresh and inviting and not just ate a cherry popsicle. Behind you, 2 women exchange advice. Try patting with a tissue. Use a little Vaseline, as if any one tip might stave off the encroaching entropy. Then there's the hair. Your meticulously styled bouffant, sculpted and shellacked with industrial-grade hairspray, has begun to wilt. A quick fluff, a sneak of the comb, and a gentle spritz, if you dare, are your only defense against gravity and humidity. You check your teeth, no spinach, no lipstick, no reason to panic. For now. The ritual is silent but universally understood. No one speaks above a whisper. Eyes meet in the mirror, exchanging nods of sympathy and the unspoken acknowledgement that we're all just trying to keep up the facade. For a brief, shining moment, the ladies' room is a refuge from the outside world, a place where you can remove your girdle for exactly 30 seconds, air out your stockings and admit, just for a heartbeat, that you are deeply, deeply tired. The worst part is leaving. You take one last look, smoothing and adjusting, checking for any stray powder in your hair or mascara under your eyes. You square your shoulders, inhale the remnants of lilac, and step back into the world, face freshened, confidence artificially inflated, soul still hanging on by a thread, back at your desk, or the grocery aisle, or the PTA meeting you pretend nothing happened. Your secret touch-up is safely hidden behind your carefully crafted smile. But every woman you pass knows the truth. They too have stood under harsh fluorescent lights, battling their own beauty emergencies. They know the real measure of a woman isn't how she starts her day, but how she survives the heat, the humidity, and the march of time. armed with nothing but a powder puff and sheer willpower. So here's to the midday miracle workers, the women who emerge from the bathroom haze ready to face the world again. You're not just maintaining your face, you're maintaining the illusion, one touch-up at a time. You enter the beauty section for just one thing, and emerge hours later with a bag full of hope, a wallet full of regret, and a free sample of someone else's perfume. It always starts innocently enough. You need a new compact, a lipstick to replace the one that melted in the car, or just a box of bobby pins, something small, something simple. You promise yourself you'll be in and out in 5 minutes, famous last words. Because as soon as you step through those polished glass doors, the air changes. A whiff of powder, the undertone of cologne, the sense that you're not just a shopper, you're an initiate into a strange new cult, one with fluorescent lighting and a very enthusiastic sales staff. The beauty section of the 1950s department store is a kaleidoscope of colours and claims. Counters gleam with possibilities, compacts of pressed powder in shades ranging from peach glow to porcelain illusion, rows of red lipsticks named after starlets and cocktails, and jars promising eternal youth if applied with a gentle upward motion. Every product boasts its own miracle ingredient: lanolin, collagen, whale oil, hope. You half expect a scientist in a lab coat to step out from behind the cold cream, offering a test tube of feminine allure. The saleslady descends like a vulture in a floral dress, her own face a flawless mask of powder, rouge, and confidence. "Can I help you find something, dear?" she chirps, and suddenly you're confessing your skincare sins, admitting to dry patches and the occasional pimple as though you're at confession. She listens gravely, nodding with professional concern, then sweeps you toward the new and improved display. You let her paint your hand with foundation, swipe your wrist with 3 shades of lipstick, spritz your pulse points with a dozen competing perfumes. Your senses go numb. Your forearm is now a patchwork of experimental glamour and chemical warfare. The department store is its own kind of theatre. Next to you, another woman debates the merits of sun-kissed bronze versus delicate blossom, while her toddler makes off with a jar of loose powder. 2 matrons argue over the best hair-setting lotion, each waving a product like a dueling sword. The sales counter itself is stacked with impulse buys, tiny pots of eyeshadow, pocket mirrors, mysterious night serums, and, if you're lucky, a dish of pastel candies no one ever seems to eat. The longer you browse, the more you become convinced that you're only a single product, away from becoming the woman in the ad, confident, poised, able to waltz through PTA meetings and sudden downpours with nary a streak or smudge. The price tags, printed in the tiniest possible font, are easy to ignore under the hypnotic glow of salesmanship. This shade is perfect for you. It's what all the actresses wear. Just a dab before bed and you'll wake up radiant. Each claim chips away at your resolve. Finally, arms full and wallet lighter, you approach the register. The saleslady rings you up, tucks in a sample of perfume just for you, and wishes you luck with a wink that's both conspiratorial and ever so slightly menacing. You leave the store a changed woman, at least until you get home and realise you've bought a lipstick 2 shades too bright, a face mask that smells like pine tar, and a night cream designed for mature skin you don't yet admit to having. But for a brief, shimmering moment, the department store gave you something priceless, the belief that beauty, perfection, was only a shopping trip away. You tuck the bag under your arm, breathe in a hint of borrowed perfume, and decide tomorrow you'll try again, maybe just for one thing. And so, the adventure continues. Ads say perfection is possible, with enough creams, masks, and self-loathing. You try everything but suspect the perfect complexion is like Bigfoot, often sighted, never captured. You wake up each morning with hope. Today will be the day your skin glows, your cheeks look like porcelain, and your pores retreat in defeat. The magazines assure you it's just a matter of dedication, a little cleansing, a little toning, a little praying to the skin gods that you're spared a breakout before bridge club. The shelves in your bathroom are a graveyard of nearly full jars and half-used tubes, each promising to reveal your most radiant self with regular use, or at least distract you long enough to forget your other problems. First, there's the cleanser, a minty cream that claims to melt away impurities. You lather and rinse, watching your reflection for signs of immediate transformation. Nothing. Maybe it's the toner, a stinging potion that leaves your face red, raw, and smelling faintly of hospital corridors. Next, the moisturizer, thick as cake batter and guaranteed to lock in hydration. You pat it on, imagining every cell in your face is sighing in gratitude. Instead, your skin simply looks moist, damp even, glowing. Only if your definition of glow is a sheen reminiscent of cold cuts under the deli counter lights, and then the masks. Oh, the masks. There's the cold cream, the clay mask, the mysterious green goop that promises overnight miracles. You slather on a layer, feeling it tighten until your face resembles a dried apple doll. You stare in the mirror and try to smile, but the mask cracks, a visual metaphor for your faith in the beauty industry. 10 minutes to a flawless complexion, the package promises. You check the clock after 8, unable to move your face or your optimism any further. When it comes off, the result is always the same. Your skin feels slightly cleaner, slightly redder, and the freckle on your chin, which your aunt calls charming, remains stubbornly in place. Advertisements declare that if you just stick to the routine, results will follow. So you stick, and you hope, and every now and then you get a compliment from your mother-in-law about how rested you look, usually right before she suggests a different brand of soap. And let's not forget the spot treatments, the little bottles of magic that promise to erase blemishes overnight. You dab, you dot, you repeat the mantra, beauty is pain, beauty is patience, beauty is apparently just out of reach. The next morning the blemish is still there, now sporting a ring of white residue for extra emphasis. Of course, the pursuit of the perfect complexion isn't a solo venture. There are always friends, sisters and neighbours ready to share tips. Have you tried honey, lemon juice, sleeping on your back with your head elevated? Each suggestion is made in earnest, though you secretly suspect they're just as desperate as you are. You trade secrets like baseball cards, each of you convinced that somewhere, someone knows the answer, but no one does. What the ads never mention is the cost. The hours spent in front of the mirror, the small fortune invested in beauty. The creeping suspicion that perfection is just a carrot dangling in front of your powder pink nose. The only thing you're really exfoliating is your patience. Still you persist, because there's always one more miracle product, one more home remedy, one more late-night hope that this, finally, is the answer. By bedtime, you wash your face once more, watching dreams of flawlessness swirl down the drain. You slather on night cream, slip between the sheets, and tell yourself that in the morning you'll wake up looking like those women in the ads, or more likely like yourself, with freckles, with character, and most importantly with a sense of humour about it all, because the perfect complexion like Bigfoot remains a myth. But at least you get a good story out of the search. Advertisers promise you can baste a roast, wipe a child's nose and look glamorous, all at the same time. In reality, you're sweating through your foundation and your last nerve. It's 5 o'clock and the house transforms into a scene of organised chaos. You're in the kitchen, spatula in hand, apron tied in a hopeful bow, every curl and contour in place, at least for now. The radio jingle in the background is singing about how a happy wife is. A tidy wife is a pretty wife, and you try to hum along, but your heart just isn't in it. You've got a roast in the oven, potatoes boiling, and at least 2 different kinds of sauce threatening to revolt. On top of that, there's a mysterious sticky patch on the linoleum and a growing suspicion that you've forgotten something important, possibly one of the children. You pause to check your reflection in the shiny chrome of the toaster. The woman looking back at you is flushed, a little frazzled, and wearing more flour than powder. Still, the lipstick is holding on for dear life. There's a smudge on your cheek, but it might just pass for blush. You swipe at it with a dish towel and press on. Between stirring the gravy and setting the table, you're multitasking like a one-woman army. One hand wipes a child's nose with a practiced flick, the other snatches a pot off the stove seconds before disaster strikes. Advertisers show women looking serene while pouring gravy and offering up perfectly basted roasts, their hair untouched by the laws of physics. In your world, the kitchen is a sauna, your curls are drooping, and your deodorant has long since surrendered to the heat of battle. The kids are underfoot, one building a Lego fortress on the pantry floor, another using your best Tupperware as a drum set. You call for help, but the only answer is the distant clatter of your husband searching for the evening paper. You grab a carrot stick and gnaw, wondering how anyone in those commercials manages to look so composed while serving up 7 dishes and resolving a diplomatic crisis over who got more applesauce. You plate the meal, sliding everything onto the table with a flourish that feels less like showmanship and more like collapse. The family gathers, eyes wide with expectation. You smile, lips stretched in what you hope passes for maternal warmth, and try to ignore the bead of sweat rolling down your temple. The roast is miraculously cooked through. The potatoes are only slightly overdone. You ignore the scorch mark on the casserole and the wild hair sticking out above your ear. Dinner is served, but you're not finished. No, a glamorous housewife must be attentive and charming all through the meal. You field questions about homework, defuse sibling squabbles, and pretend not to notice when a fork is used as a catapult. In the advertisements, no one ever drops a spoon or complains about peas touching the potatoes. In real life, you're refereeing food disputes and clearing spills with the reflexes of a world-class athlete. After dinner, it's time for cleaning. You clear plates with a flourish, pile dishes in the sink, and try to keep up your end of dinner table conversation. Yes, dear, I did see that article about lawn care. You scrub, you rinse, you tidy, all while the remnants of your lipstick cling to the rim of your coffee cup, and your last nerve vibrates like a violin string. But when the kitchen is clean, the family is fed, and the leftovers are safely sealed away, you allow yourself a moment to breathe. You survive the dinner hour, maybe not with the grace of a magazine model, but with the determination of someone who knows the true recipe for success is part effort, part humour, and a dash of good enough. Tomorrow the roast may burn, the lipstick may smudge, and the ad men will still insist it's possible to do it all in pearls and a pencil skirt. But for tonight, you did it. And that, in itself, is beautiful. He's home. You're supposed to be fresh as a daisy. Instead, you look like a daisy that's been through a lawnmower. Grab the cold cream and pray for a power outage. The garage door grinds open with all the subtlety of a train derailment, announcing his arrival like the world's most ominous drum roll. You freeze, one hand holding a spatula, the other hastily smoothing down a stray lock of hair that's been rebelling since lunch. This is the hour the women's magazines warned you about. Always greet your husband looking your best. A fresh face is a happy home. Unfortunately, your face hasn't felt fresh since approximately 8:07 a.m. You make a mad dash for the hallway mirror. There, staring back at you, is the weary, wilted reflection of a woman who has cooked, cleaned, refereed a sibling squabble, and wrestled with an existential crisis over the laundry all before sunset. Your mascara, guaranteed waterproof in the way the Titanic was unsinkable, is making a slow, determined descent toward your cheekbones. There's a faint shadow where your eyeliner once drew a bold line, now more of a cryptic smudge like the signature of a ghost. Time is ticking. You have 90 seconds to transform, and you channel every ounce of desperation into your beauty routine. You reach for the cold cream, slathering it over your cheeks and scrubbing off the day's hard work, taking with it a good portion of foundation, and if you're lucky, at least one of your worries. You dab at the stubborn streak of mascara, praying it comes off before he makes it through the door. Meanwhile, the kitchen timer goes off, again, and the baby starts to cry. The dog barks in sympathy, or possibly accusation. You swipe on fresh powder, smear on a new coat of lipstick in a shade that can only be described as optimistic rose, and pinch your cheeks until they're flushed, or at least awake. Advertisers say a dab of cologne behind each ear will erase the smell of burnt roast, spilled milk, and the faint aroma of panic. The front door opens, and you put on your best "I've had everything under control all day" smile. He appears, briefcase in hand, tie slightly loosened, and surveys the room with a kind of tired look that says he'd trade everything for 5 minutes of silence. You give him a peck on the cheek, hoping he doesn't notice the faint scent of cold cream, or the fact that your hair is, at this point, held together solely by force of will. Dinner conversation is a delicate balancing act. You field questions about his day, productive, dear, just swamped with paperwork, while subtly adjusting your slipping headband and hiding your mascara-streaked napkin. The children, sensing the shift in power dynamics, seize the opportunity to ask for dessert before dinner and possibly a pony. You nod and smile, carefully monitoring the level of chaos against the magazine standard of family harmony. Throughout the meal, you steal glances in the reflective surface of the teapot, checking for further makeup emergencies. The lipstick holds, miraculously. The mascara, not so much. Still, you press on, determined to maintain at least the illusion of domestic tranquility. By the time dessert is served, store-bought pie artfully disguised on your best plate, you've nearly convinced yourself that the evening has been a success. After dinner, as you finally collapse into your favourite chair, You allow yourself a moment of honesty. You weren't fresh as a daisy, but you survived the storm, mascara streaks and all. The magazines can keep their perky, polished housewives. You'll take your real, rumpled, human self any day, power outage or not. And besides, tomorrow is another chance to get it right. Or, at the very least, to invest in stronger mascara. The family gathers around the TV to watch perfectly groomed women sell you everything from toothpaste to eternal youth. You try to emulate them and accidentally glue your eyelids shut. It's 7 o'clock sharp, and the household is bathed in the blue glow of the living room television, the set humming like the electric heart of the home. The dinner dishes are stacked in the sink, the children have been bribed into temporary silence, and you're perched on the sofa in your best relaxed but presentable housecoat. This is not just family entertainment, it's a masterclass in beauty, charm, and the subtle art of selling everything short of the moon. The commercials are the true event. A parade of dazzling women floats across the screen, not a hair out of place, lipstick fresh, teeth so white you could use them as headlamps. They smile their secrets directly at you, except, of course, the secret is always buy this product, and you too can have it all. There's Mildred, whose shampoo leaves her hair so glossy it nearly blinds the camera. There's glamorous Ruth, who claims her secret is a nightly application of rejuvenating cream and a positive outlook. You suspect the outlook is easier after 3 gin rickeys. The beauty tips come rapid fire: the correct way to brush your hair, the only way to dab perfume, the eyebrow pencil that will make your husband fall in love with you all over again, or at least not notice when you accidentally burn the meatloaf. You scribble notes on the back of an envelope, determined to master the TV starlet look before your next Tupperware party. After the show, you march to the bathroom armed with hope and a sample packet of adhesive false eyelashes. The instructions are predictably vague. Apply a thin layer of glue to the base of the lash. Place gently along your own lashes. Blink and smile. What they do not mention is that the glue is a sentient being with a will of its own. You squeeze out a blob, overshoot, and find yourself trying to spread it with a Q-tip, a bobby pin, and eventually your pinky, all to no avail. The lashes stick eventually, not to your lash line but rather to your eyelid, your eyebrow, and briefly, your left nostril. There is a moment of panic when you attempt to separate your lashes and discover your eyelid is firmly shut. Your husband calls from the living room, asking what that smell is, and you pretend you can't hear him over the sound of your own escalating anxiety. After some determined tugging and whispered prayers, your eyes spring open, one eyebrow now at a permanent angle of surprise. Undeterred, you attempt the perfect powder technique demonstrated by the TV queen. You swirl the puff with as much grace as you can muster, only to sneeze violently as a cloud of talcum powder fills the air, settling on your hair, your shoulders, and the bathroom floor. The effect is less satin finish and more ghost auditioning for a Halloween special. Still, the show must go on. By bedtime, you've tried every trick from the episode. Face cream, hair curlers, a dab of blush on your cheeks, and, after some misreading, a bit on your chin for balance. The result is a look that's less starlet and more mom caught in a windstorm. But as you pass your reflection, you can't help but smile. Maybe you'll never be a TV beauty queen, but you've earned every laugh line, every mascara smudge, every well-meaning misstep along the way. And so, you switch off the bathroom light and return to your family, blinking slightly unevenly but standing tall. You may not have nailed the eyelash routine, but you survived another evening of beauty school, small screen style. And, as every commercial promises, tomorrow is always another chance to shine. You layer on night cream until you resemble a glazed donut. Advertisers say this is the secret to waking up beautiful. Your pillowcase disagrees. Bedtime in the 1950s is no gentle fade to black, it's an operation. You approach the ritual with the determination of a field general, flanked by jars, bottles, and mysterious unguents that promise transformation by morning. There's a cold cream for cleansing, a rich moisturizer for hydrating, a special wrinkle-banishing concoction for the corners of your eyes, and something called youth serum with the faint scent of menthol and broken dreams. The procedure begins with the cold cream. You scoop out a generous dollop more than any label recommends, because if a little is good, more must be better. You smear it over your face, massaging in circles until every trace of mascara, rouge, and daytime disappointment has vanished. You wipe away the residue with a soft washcloth, revealing a bare, shiny canvas ready for the next assault. Next comes the night cream, thick and slightly pink, with a consistency that can only be described as culinary. You pat it on, starting at the cheeks and working outward until you're coated in a glistening sheen, rivaling any pastry under the bakery lights. If the goal is to look edible, you're succeeding. If the goal is to wake up with perfect skin, you'll need to check with your pillowcase, which is busy absorbing the bulk of your investment. Your husband enters, fresh from his two-step grooming routine, rinse and towel dry, and pauses at the sight of you in full bedtime regalia. To his credit, he doesn't flinch. This is not his first glazed donut rodeo. You exchange a look. His, a mix of affection and mild alarm. Yours, an attempt at reassurance despite the shiny glare from your forehead. Marital diplomacy is the unspoken rule. No remarks about grease paint or clown school if you expect peaceful negotiations regarding the blanket later. You apply a dab of special overnight eye rejuvenator, which boasts of reducing bags, lines, and possibly marital tension. The tube's instructions recommend a light touch. You squint, realizing your version of light may be what's holding back the aging process, or at least advancing the reputation of local linen manufacturers. Then, onto the hands, a layer of lotion, then gloves. Optional, but so is dignity at this point, to keep the night cream from sliding down to your elbows by sunrise. The final step is a quick brush of your hair and a moment's contemplation. Scarf or no scarf? You remember the ad? Protect your style while you sleep. But last night's scarf had a vendetta and spent most of the night wrapped around your throat. You leave it on the nightstand and risk waking up with natural volume, which is 1950s code for fright wig. You slide into bed, careful not to touch your face to the pillowcase just yet. Your husband turns out the light. Silence falls, broken only by the soft squelch of your cheek against the pillow. You stare at the ceiling and try to imagine the miraculous transformation that is allegedly happening as you sleep. The reality, as always, is slightly less magical. You wake to a pillowcase imprinted with greasy hieroglyphics, hair stuck to one side of your face and skin that feels exactly the same as it did at 10 p.m, but maybe just a little more hopeful. Because beauty in the end is a nightly act of faith. That one more layer, one more cream, one more soft apology to your spouse for the state of the sheets will finally be enough. You dab away the excess, smile at your reflection, donut glaze and all, and greet another day. After all, true love is someone who kisses you goodnight despite the cold cream. And true beauty, if it ever arrives, will have to survive the night. Even your dreams are in black and white, except the nightmares. Those are sponsored in colour, and usually involve running late to a beauty pageant with no lipstick. You finally drift off to sleep, your face shellacked in night cream, your hair protected more or less by a scarf that will probably strangle you by 3 a.m. The house is silent. The world, for a moment, lets you rest. But your mind is wide awake, flipping channels through a lineup of advertisements, expectations, and endless to-do lists. Somewhere deep in your subconscious, Madison Avenue's jingles take over the controls. You find yourself standing backstage at a glimmering pageant. The colours are vivid, unnaturally so. Every lipstick, every gown, every can of hairspray shines like the fruit display at the A&P under new fluorescent bulbs. There's a judge with a clipboard, a chorus of women with perfectly arched brows, and the low, menacing hum of a radio jingle looping endlessly in the background. For that fresh, clean feeling, day or night. Your stomach drops. You reach into your purse for your trusty lipstick and find nothing. Just a handful of hairpins, a tiny mirror, and a coupon for cold cream that expired last year. Panic blooms in full, Technicolor horror. A woman in a dazzling green evening gown glides past, flashing a smile so white you swear it sparkles. "You didn't forget your lipstick, did you?" she whispers, eyes wide in gentle mockery. Another contestant twirls her curls with a manicured hand, her voice echoing the copy from 1,000 magazine ads. True beauty starts with flawless skin. You peer at your own reflection and discover your face is 2 shades of foundation and 3 types of mascara, none of them matching. The crowd gasps. Somewhere a spotlight flickers. You realise you're still in your bathrobe and house slippers. You try to slink off stage, only to be intercepted by a giant powder puff, wielded by a smiling sales lady the size of a Buick. She dusts your face, sending up a cloud that smells faintly of roses and fear. "There, darling. Ready for your close-up," she beams, as if you haven't just been exhumed from a department store's clearance bin. You open your mouth to protest, but out comes the jingle. You're not fully clean unless you're zestfully clean. In the dreamscape, rules are mutable and Madison Avenue holds the pen. Your inner beauty is being graded by a panel of advertisers, each one holding up a card with a number and a product name. You scramble to apply mascara, now in high-definition unforgiving colour, but the wand melts in your hand, leaving trails of inky panic on your cheeks. You remember all those beauty tips you've memorised. Dab, don't rub, smile with your teeth, not your eyes, never go out without powder, but they jumble together, as useless as the blush brush you're inexplicably holding with your toes. The dream pivots, as dreams do, and suddenly you're racing through a grocery store in Technicolor heels, pursued by a disembodied voiceover, because every woman needs freshness that lasts. Shelves are stacked with every product you've ever tried and abandoned, mocking you with their pastel labels. You try to run, but your girdle is too tight and your nylons are sliding down again. You shout for help, but it comes out as another advertising slogan, and then relief. You wake up blinking in the grey dawn light, sweat cooling on your brow. You check the bedside table, lipstick safe and sound, no sales ladies looming over your bed, no pageant scorecards. Just you, your rumpled pillowcase, and the gentle, absurd realization that even your subconscious can't escape the long arm of 1950s beauty standards. You sigh, smile, and make peace with the chaos. At least for tonight, you've survived the Technicolor nightmares of Madison Avenue. Tomorrow you'll brave the world again, but tonight you can laugh, because even if perfection only exists in dreams, at least your sense of humour survived the night. Congratulations, you survived one day as a 1950s beauty. Too bad the cycle starts again tomorrow, with even higher standards and a new ad campaign to haunt your breakfast. The alarm rings, but it isn't so much a gentle chime as a declaration of war. You roll over, groggy and sore from a night spent balancing between your glazed donut skin and a pillowcase that will need to be bleached back into submission. You squint at the soft grey light peeking through your curtains and brace yourself for the symphony of demands that is another day in beauty boot camp. Before you even rise, your mind races with the familiar checklist. What did the ad say this week? New improved, revolutionary, now with extra collagen. There's a fresh magazine on your nightstand, the cover model all winking eyes and perfect teeth, inviting you to wake up beautiful, as if you hadn't already signed away your free time to that dream last night. You rub your eyes and try not to resent her. She probably woke up in full makeup and with a team of hairdressers lurking just off stage. You shuffle to the bathroom, greeted by the arsenal, rows of cleansers, creams, tonics, powders, and a toothbrush that promises a Hollywood smile with minimal effort. The mirror is merciless, its cool morning light unfiltered by advertising. There they are. The slightly smeared eyeliner, the stubborn pillow crease, a new constellation of tiny blemishes that escaped last night's barrage of miracle serums. You sigh, knowing exactly what's ahead. Lather, rinse, repeat, not just for your hair, but for your whole routine, your whole self. You start again, cleansing, patting, dabbing, painting on your morning face with the determination of a general preparing for battle. The pancake makeup, the powder, the bold swipe of lipstick in a new shade the magazines say is this season's must. Your eyebrows must arch, your lashes must curl, your lips must smile, even before the coffee's brewed. The advertisements promised all this would be effortless, but here you are, rationing energy between achieving dewy freshness and not stabbing yourself with a mascara wand. Downstairs, the kitchen radio is already chirping about another miracle product designed to save you from yourself. You half listen as you prepare toast, wondering if anyone in real life has ever effortlessly sealed in moisture while balancing breakfast, motherhood, and the rising dread of a PTA meeting where your lipstick could be upstaged by a casserole. The kids bicker, the husband asks for more bacon, and somewhere in the mix you sense the low-grade anxiety of knowing you're already behind the trends, behind the routine, behind the perfectly presented, ever-smiling woman in the latest ad. The cycle is relentless. Every day brings a new rule, a new product, a new expectation, girdle ads promising comfort and control, hairsprays that claim they'll hold up under a hurricane, powders so fine you could use them as fog machines. There's always a new tip to master, a new essential to add to your bathroom shelf, and a new reason to feel just a bit less than whatever perfect is supposed to mean this week. But still, you persist. You lather, you rinse, you repeat, because that's what the world and the era demands. And maybe, if you're honest, because part of you wants to believe the promises, even as you see through them. Maybe there's hope in every new compact, every new shade, every morning that offers another chance to get it almost right. You sip your coffee, apply a final layer of powder, and head into the day, poised, polished, and quietly exhausted. The cycle is absurd, but so are the standards. And if you survived yesterday, maybe you'll do it again today, and the day after, and the day after that. Because the real secret isn't in the ad copy or the latest cream. It's in your stubbornness, your humour, and your ability to face the mirror, sigh, and try again. Lather, rinse, repeat, despair, and despite it all, carry on. It's the daily drive with the kids and neighbour's poodle in tow, your gloved hands white-knuckling the steering wheel of a car with all the safety features of a tin can. You've got 5 minutes to get to school, the radio blaring tips for modern ladies, and you're praying the only thing running is your engine, not your mascara. Mornings in the 1950s aren't designed for the faint of heart, or for the faint of makeup. The carpool ritual is a test of nerves, patience, and facial adhesives. Your hair is set, your lipstick applied with surgical precision, and your lashes are shellacked with enough mascara to withstand a strong breeze, or so you thought. You slide behind the wheel, adjust your rearview mirror, and lock eyes with a backseat brimming with children, lunchboxes, and one shifty-eyed French poodle named Mitzi. The car, a cheerful powder blue sedan built like a bread box, offers all the modern amenities, a radio, an ashtray, and seat belts that exist more in theory than in practice. You slip on your driving gloves, not because you're elegant, but because the steering wheel is already sticky from last week's spill, orange juice, melted lipstick. The mystery remains unsolved. The clock on the dashboard ticks down. You have precisely 5 minutes to reach the school before the first bell rings and the neighbour glares at you for her daughter's tardy slip. As you back out of the driveway, the radio blares the latest jingle. Keep your lashes lush, your lips plush, and your husband hush. A beauty expert with a chipper voice details the proper way to powder your nose while navigating rush hour. You suppress a laugh and pray the only thing flying around the car will be your confidence, not your compact. The road is a gauntlet. Potholes, stop signs, the world's slowest milk truck, and of course, the poodle, who has decided this is the ideal moment to leap from lap to lap. You grip the wheel, dodging bicycles and the lingering dread that a single sneeze will undo an hour's worth of mascara. Don't touch your face. Don't touch your face, you chant silently, remembering the warning in last month's Ladies' Home Journal about makeup meltdown and its devastating social consequences. Halfway to school, disaster strikes. Timmy lobs his sandwich at his sister, she retaliates with a screech, and Mitzi joins the fray, paws planted squarely on your shoulder. You swerve, narrowly missing the curb, and, with it, your dignity. Your heart pounds. You glance at the mirror and spot a single, accusing black streak snaking down your cheek. Mascara. Breached. At the red light, you fumble in your purse for a tissue, past the broken bobby pins, the rogue safety pin, and 3 receipts from the beauty counter. You dab, reapply, and attempt to touch up with the speed and skill of a seasoned pit crew. The light turns green, and you floor it, praying the end result is chicly smudged and not emotional breakdown. Arrival at the school is chaos. You shepherd children, backpacks, and Mitzi to the curb, smoothing hair and shushing squabbles. Other mothers look flawless, fresh-faced and unflappable, but you see their gloved hands, the powder on their noses, and you know the truth. You're all clinging to the edge of composure, praying for a quiet drive and a forgiving compact mirror. The bell rings. The kids dash off, the poodle gives one last haughty sniff, and you slump in the driver's seat. Mascara mostly intact, hair only slightly askew. You survived the carpool catastrophe, barely. As you pull away, the radio offers one final gem. And remember, ladies, beauty is in the details. You smile, check your lashes in the mirror, and decide the only detail that matters today is making it home with your sanity, and at least one unsmudged eye. The ads swear by beauty sleep, but you're discovering it's less about sleep, and more about strategic application of creams, night rollers, and the ever-dreaded facial tape that promises wrinkle-free mornings and delivers only new forms of self-doubt. Bedtime in the 1950s is supposed to be a sanctuary, a time to shed the day, slip into comfort and let the world's demands fall away. Instead, it's a high-stakes, multi-step performance for an audience of one, your reflection. The process starts innocently enough. You slip into your nightgown and eye the array of jars and tools that have taken over your vanity, each promising to fight aging overnight or lock in youth while you dream. But tonight, you're going Hollywood. You've purchased a box of face tape, as endorsed by the starlets themselves. The instructions are printed in cheerful pink script, as if you're about to enjoy a treat instead of embarking on a mild torture session. Smooth a strip across each cheek, they chirp, pull taut at the temples, wake up looking 10 years younger. You unspool the first strip stiffer than a parking ticket and only slightly less forgiving. You stick it in place, feeling your skin tug northward, the corner of your mouth arching into a permanent half-smirk. The tape is cold, clingy, and about as subtle as a facelift with scotch tape. But why stop there? You reach for the curlers, nighttime hedgehogs that promise bouncy, movie star waves by morning. The packaging says soft sleep rollers, but you know better. You section your hair, winding each lock around the spiky pink cylinders, your arms aching and your resolve crumbling. By the time you're done, you look like you've been caught in a plastic bear trap, and your scalp is tingling from the strain. Your husband wanders in, takes one look, and wisely chooses silence. The final step, slathering your face with a thick layer of night cream that glistens in the lamplight. You pat, smooth, and massage, following the circular motions you saw on TV. You consider the ad's promise, wake up radiant, and wonder if it means the glow of good health, or just the slick shine from all this ointment. You crawl into bed, trying not to disturb the carefully engineered scaffolding of your face and hair. Every turn on the pillow threatens to dislodge a curler, unstick a tape, or smear an expensive glob of overnight miracle across the sheets. You lie rigid, hands at your sides, like a beauty-obsessed mummy. Your pillowcase is slick, your scalp pulses with every heartbeat, and the tape pulls at your skin every time you blink. Sleep comes fitfully, haunted by the memory of the radio jingle. Beauty is as easy as dreaming, just don't roll over. And then the dreams begin. Scenes of mascara running in slow motion, pageants judged by your own mother, a house filled with mirrors that growl if you dare to show a wrinkle. Even in your sleep you're performing, keeping your jaw clenched so the tape doesn't pop off and take half your dignity with it. When the alarm rings, you peel yourself from the sheets and face the moment of truth. You unstick the tape, heart racing. Is your skin smoother, firmer, younger, or just slightly red and oddly shaped? The curlers come out with the enthusiasm of a medieval extraction, leaving you with a head of hair best described as surprise poodle. The cream has mostly transferred itself to the pillow, and you're left blinking in the bathroom mirror wondering if the effort was worth it. But you did it. You survived the face tape, the curlers, the creams, and your own doubts. If not unscathed, then at least undefeated. Hollywood may keep its secrets, but you have your own. A sense of humour, a dash of stubbornness, and a willingness to try again, night after night, in the name of beauty sleep. You arrive at the PTA, armed with a casserole, your best fake smile, and a fear that everyone's really just inspecting your complexion. You're convinced the treasurer's pearls are real, the secretary's skin is painted on, and you'd trade a year's supply of Jell-O to know what their secret actually is. Walking into the PTA meeting is less about community involvement, and more about stepping onto a suburban runway, where everyone's outfit is a tactical manoeuvre, and every beauty flaw is a potential topic for next week's gossip. You clutch your Pyrex dish and steel yourself for the blinding assault of perfume, freshly set curls and blouses so crisp they could double as body armour. You exchange greetings at the door, careful to angle your face toward the best possible light. So lovely to see you, you chirp, while secretly wondering if Doris has discovered a new moisturiser, or is just benefiting from superior genetics. The conference room is a pageant of put together. There's the president, her pearls gleaming, her cardigan the precise shade of a rose garden after rain. You can't help but check your own buttons, running a nervous finger along your necklace. You slide into a seat beside Shirley, who always seems to have perfect cuticles and the kind of serene confidence that only comes from successfully raising 4 children and never, ever getting a zit. Introductions begin. You dab at a rogue bit of mascara with your napkin and offer your most winning "I'm just delighted to be here" expression. But you're distracted, unable to stop scanning the faces around you. Poreless, barely there, and oh, is that a hint of shine? You relax, then realise it's just the glare off Gladys's pearls. The meeting kicks off with the treasurer's report, rows of numbers and the clack of pearl bracelets against the table. You nod along, but your mind is occupied by more pressing questions. Is it the lighting, or is your foundation already giving up? Will anyone notice the faint shadow of a blemish near your chin? The inner monologue is relentless. Smile, but not too wide. Check your teeth. Don't fidget with your hair. Resist the urge to blot. Soon, it's time for refreshments. You watch in awe as the president glides past with a plate of lemon bars, her lipstick perfectly intact, not a crumb in sight. You sneak off to the restroom under the pretense of freshening up. Inside, you find half the committee already at the mirror, wielding compacts and powder puffs like seasoned professionals. It's a delicate dance of touch-ups and subtle one-upmanship. Love your shade. Where did you get it? Oh, this? Paris, Texas. You add a bit more powder, tug at your sleeve, and rehearse the art of the effortless laugh. Back at the table, the discussion turns to the spring fundraiser, but you're distracted by Helen's flawless brow arch and the way her earrings catch the light. You resolve to try her beauty routine, conveniently forgetting that last time you nearly glued your own eyebrow to your eyelid. By the end of the meeting, you're both exhausted and oddly exhilarated. You survived another round in the suburban coliseum, your casserole barely touched, your beauty routine stress-tested, your fake smile threatening to become real. You head home, pearls in place, foundation holding on for dear life, and a mental checklist of everything you'll do differently before next month's meeting, starting with more sleep, a new powder, and maybe, just maybe, learning to care a little less. Because in the PTA gauntlet, you're judged by your pearls, your pause, and above all, your persistence. And if all else fails, there's always Jell-O. There's a new wonder product on the market again. Advertisers guarantee it'll revolutionize your beauty routine. You buy it, you try it, you wait, you look exactly the same, but now you smell faintly of synthetic apricots and poor financial decisions. The cycle is as familiar as your morning cup of coffee. You spot the ad while flipping through a glossy magazine, a full-page spectacle promising miracles in a jar. The model is radiant, her hair perfectly coiffed, her cheeks aglow with the hope of a brighter tomorrow, or at least a brighter T-zone. Finally, a solution for every woman. The headline screams, as if a lack of apricot extract has been the only thing holding you back from social ascendancy. You jot down the name of the product just in case it's out of stock by the time you get to the store. But of course it isn't. There's a wall of it stacked so high the clerk needs a step stool to reach the top shelf. The packaging boasts all the right buzzwords: advanced, miracle, dermatologist recommended. You read the instructions twice, convinced that this is the answer. With a mixture of hope and skepticism, you surrender your hard-earned cash, justifying the expense as an investment in the future being presumably a week from now when your skin finally achieves luminous clarity. At home, you prepare for the grand unveiling. The jar itself is satisfyingly heavy, promising importance. You twist off the lid and inhale. The scent is overwhelmingly fruity, artificial, and just a little too enthusiastic. You apply the cream according to the directions. Upward strokes only, of course, lest gravity gain a permanent foothold. You massage, you pat, you gaze expectantly in the mirror, awaiting the moment of transformation. The minutes tick by. You scrutinize your pores with the intensity of a detective on the brink of cracking the case. Nothing happens. Well, not nothing. Your cheeks begin to tingle, a not-so-subtle reminder that active ingredients sometimes mean mild irritant. You tell yourself this is part of the magic. Beauty requires sacrifice, after all. You repeat the ritual faithfully, night after night. You watch, you wait, you believe. Surely the ads wouldn't lie. Those smiling women on television wouldn't steer you wrong. A week passes, maybe two. Friends compliment your new perfume, not realizing it's the lingering ghost of synthetic apricots. Your complexion, unchanged. You're neither dewy nor radiant. You're just slightly more fragrant and a bit poorer. Defeat creeps in, slow and familiar. You stash the jar in the cabinet with its cousins, miracle lotions, overnight serums, guaranteed creams, all former darlings of your beauty routine, now relegated to the land of misfit products. You consider writing a letter to the company, but the prospect of describing your unchanged face feels like its own kind of defeat. Still, the hope never really dies. There's always a new headline, a new testimonial, a new friend swearing by the product she can't live without. The cycle restarts. The next jar is infused with rare botanicals, clinically proven, and crucially on sale this week only. You buy it, you try it, you wait. In the end, you've learned something essential about beauty. It's not just about transformation. It's about the ritual, the promise, the little thrill of possibility that comes with every new and improved label. And maybe, just maybe, it's about finding humour in the absurdity, knowing that if nothing else, you'll always smell like hope, with a hint of artificial apricot. Because if the 1950s beauty industry has taught you anything, it's that the real miracle is your stubborn optimism and the quiet dignity of trying, again and again, for just a touch of magic. It's midnight. You're tiptoeing to the fridge for a forbidden slice of leftover cake, haunted by the voice of that radio ad warning you, a moment on the lips, a lifetime on the hips. You eat it anyway, rationalizing that calories consumed in the dark don't count, but the guilt and the crumbs in your cold cream tell another story. The house is silent, the lights are low, and every floorboard is determined to expose your mission. You pause outside the kitchen, scanning for witnesses, children, husbands, the family cat, all conveniently asleep or at least pretending to be. The clock ticks in slow motion. It's the witching hour, that magical time when self-control is at its weakest, and yesterday's cake morphs into today's destiny. Your slippers shuffle softly across the linoleum as you make your way to the fridge, the pale blue light spilling out like a stage spotlight. You scan the shelves with the precision of a codebreaker: salad, leftover casserole, a lone celery stick, and, there, in the back, a glimmer of foil-wrapped hope. Chocolate cake, the last remnant of last night's no-sugar resolution. For a moment you consider slicing a sliver, but who are you kidding? The fork is already in your hand. You take a bite and the flavours flood your senses, sweet, decadent, utterly worth it. The first mouthful is pure euphoria, the second is laced with anxiety. You hear it, the echo of that radio jingle from earlier, the one sung by a chipper soprano, a moment on the lips, a lifetime on the hips. You glance down, half expecting to see the calories migrating south in real time. You resolve to chew a little slower, as if that might make the cake less treacherous. But there's a thrill in the rebellion, the secret snack taken under cover of darkness, the knowledge that tomorrow's version of you can always start a new diet. You lick the frosting from your finger, hoping the calories are too busy hiding to count. You tell yourself the well-known scientific fact that food eaten while standing up has no effect, and besides, the 1950s are all about moderation, until they're not. Just as you finish, the kitchen clock chimes. Your guilt is interrupted by the sticky sensation of cold cream meeting cake crumbs. You wipe your chin, only to discover your nighttime youth mask is now sporting a fine dusting of chocolate. You debate washing your face again, but that would mean admitting defeat to both cake and the beauty industry. Instead, you reach for a napkin and hope your skin appreciates the extra moisturizing nutrients. Back in bed, you slide between the sheets, the memory of the midnight snack lingering on your breath and on your pillowcase. You wonder if anyone will notice in the morning, or if this will be one of those quiet secrets mothers and wives carry with them, along with the recipe for Jell-O salad and the emergency can of whipped cream. Tomorrow, the cycle resumes. Cottage cheese for lunch, celery for a snack, a new diet touted in the back of a glossy magazine. But tonight, you are gloriously, defiantly human. You ate the cake, you survived the guilt, and with any luck the scale in the bathroom will show mercy, or at least a sense of humour. Because in the end, the midnight snack is more than calories and consequences. It's a small, sweet rebellion against the endless rules and routines, a reminder that sometimes joy comes in a foil-wrapped package, with a side of regret and a dusting of cocoa powder. And if tomorrow brings another ad for diet bread or sugar-free gelatin, you'll smile, nod, and secretly remember the taste of freedom, best enjoyed in the dark and never, ever counted. So tonight, as you tuck yourself in, no cold cream required, no curlers threatening to dislodge in the dark, maybe take a moment to exhale all those impossible expectations. Because surviving a day as a 1950s beauty was more than a routine. It was a full-time job, a high-stakes performance, and sometimes a comedy of errors staged right in your own bathroom. Through all the pancake makeup and hair disasters, the relentless advertising jingles, and the endless parade of new and improved everything, women persevered with a kind of stubborn grace. They laughed through lipstick mishaps, endured girdle-induced oxygen shortages, and found friendship in whispered secrets exchanged at the powder room mirror. The pressure was immense, the rules absurd, but somehow resilience always found a way, usually with a splash of perfume and a heavy dose of humour. So as you drift off tonight, wrapped in comfort, with your phone as your only witness, be grateful for soft pyjamas and the option to skip mascara for days on end. Maybe give a quiet thank you to those who came before, who weathered toxic powders and nylon catastrophes so you could one day wear sweatpants with pride. History is weird, and people have always found new ways to make daily life both hilarious and heroic. If the world sometimes seems obsessed with appearances, remember, the standards keep changing, but the power of laughter and a little self-kindness never goes out of style. Rest easy. Tomorrow is another day, and whatever beauty routine you choose or don't, remember, you already made it through the hardest part today. Good night.